So one of the things I kind of want to talk to you about is starting off. Again, you always see so many spreads where they look absolutely amazing and you're thinking, I really, really want that. And then you look at a blank piece of paper and you try your best, but it still doesn't turn out well and you just give up because it just looks horrible and it doesn't look how you envisioned it to be. Now, what we're going to do in this little segment is I'm going to show you some of my really, really old stuff. Back all the way to, I think, 2013 is the first one. So you can see how my style developed, comparatively speaking. So, yeah, this might be a little bit embarrassing, but at the same time, I'm looking at some of the stuff and I'm so pleased when I look at it. There's just something inside me that just feels so warm and cozy, that it just all part of the whole, where some of the writing tags in with it as well, it just triggers all my memories and the happiness I feel because I can see the progress I've made. And that's part of what I want to talk to you about right now, about how you won't be the most amazing person right at the beginning unless you already have a talent for art, which is no problem at all, fantastic. But it does mean that you have to work on it if you're not. It does mean you have to work on it if you're not about art. Now, I'll just move some of these out of the way so I can show you my very first journal. Before we get into the different decorations and things like that, I just wanted to share with you my original journal that I started back in 2013. Now, this isn't a bullet journal, but the principles that I am going to share with the pictures from this journal are exactly the same as to what you can apply to your bullet journal in general anyway. But I just wanted to share this with you because this is what you can do with a journal that is really cheap. This is a Poundland journal, if you can believe it. So, I mean, this was one of the best bargains I ever had actually from Poundland. It was, if you can see from the spine a bit, it's all battered and bruised, and I actually covered it with wallpaper. I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, it was required to cover all our notebooks, and I kind of relived my childhood when I put the wallpaper on. But anyway, it's, as you can see, I've put extra paper in, I've washi taped the edges, there's extra paper all different places. The spine is a bit broken, but I really love this notebook because it gives me so many fond memories. Saying that, my decoration isn't that great, but you'll see what I mean when I talk about it. But all I used was pens. I just had some different colour pens in this notebook, and I just had a cheapo notebook. But it wasn't the fact that this was a beautiful notebook, it's the fact that this holds a lot of what I've written from my heart, and I look back on this, and even though I smile at the decorations and all the extra zhuzhing I did, it's really nice to see something that I can compare to what I do to now. That's not to say I don't make mistakes nowadays or I know exactly what I'm doing, but I tend to find that my process has moved on from where I was then, and I have enjoyed coming to terms with how I work my artistry on it. I'm going to call it artistry. So I just wanted to share this with you. We are going to see pictures from the notebook, but I just want to show you the actual physical notebook before we get into the pictures. To save confusion, just to let you know that because the pictures I'm showing you are from personal journals, I have deliberately blurred out some of the photographs just so that my personal things can stay personal, but you can also get to see the different decorations that I did from a very long time ago. So I've batched all the photographs together. So we're going to first look at the yearly and monthly plates, as I call it, or pages. And as you can see, we've got three. We've got one from 2013, one from 2016, and one from 2018, I believe. So as you can see, totally radical and totally different from the beginning to the end. I really like the fact that in December in 2018 I'd actually thought about it and actually did something that was very Christmassy compared to the very random thing I did in 2013. Not even sure what I was thinking there, no sense of organisation. And in 2016 I had help from one of my nephews to draw it, shall we say. Now that I've embarrassed myself sufficiently with the monthly and yearly pictures, we're moving on to the bottom of the page section. I tend to do a lot of bottom of the page decoration because it's such a simple thing to do, and I tend to do it in just line art, and it's very effective actually. These are pictures from a later journal, so you can tell the difference between my really scraggly 2013 drawing that I did quickly and the ones I've done now. They're all very simple, so I've got waves, desert and mountains. So you can adapt that again to any which way, you can do it all over. I tend to have the pictures a little bit higher up and then I have words underneath the pictures. And I do that for quite a lot of my journaling because it's just a simple way of keeping track of what it looks like. And actually it's quite a lot of fun. Next we have the main pictures that I do when I've got quite a big amount of space and I don't have anything to fill it up. One that you can see is just a quick drawing. The other I did a 3-tone picture because I was using 3 different colours for the main overall picture. So it just gives you some idea as to the different things you can use. I mean, as you can see in these two pictures, one on the right is quite an old picture, so that was just a quick rushed 3-tone picture again with different colours, blues and a black, and the other on the right was some fancy drawings that I did for beehives for a medieval thing I was doing, and I really liked that picture, so I just whacked that in again when I had a blank page. And again, that's something you can do if you are doing drawings outside your bullet journal. You can always cut them out, stick them in the bullet journal to go with it as if they're a sticker, and again I find that a lot of fun. Moving on from our pretty pictures, we've got dividers and borders. So as you can see in these two, there are good examples again. The one on the left is a later one, just done in pencil. The one on the right is a little bit older. And as you can see, they've done in 2 different ways, one all the way around, one top and bottom. Then we have other ideas, and this is from my older journal. This is from like 2013. Again, really simple, nothing exotic. They're just simple pen drawings of quick dividers, quick patterns, and it really does make it easier to see the information when you're using dividers and borders like this. Here are some other borders. Oh, I think I've just repeated one accidentally, but never mind. I put a border or divider down to the side and the information to the other side. Kind of very medievally. You probably tend to find, if you see a lot of my stuff, I do tend to like drawing a lot of medieval style things, which is just a reflection of how my style is evolving over time. As you can see from the next picture, I've repeated kind of like a medieval style again, and I've used the centre as a split and used the tree limbs itself as one big divider, which makes it a little bit interesting when you're trying to create a more cohesive kind of theme if you're doing that outside of just your monthlies. This is the second one. It's very similar again, slightly different style, but I've just added in a little picture in the divider because if there's a good amount of space, I tend to want to fill it up with something a little bit more interesting rather than just leaving it blank, but that's only because I had time. Now this last one is from this year that I have done in my personal journal. This is a full page, but I've kept it very, very simple again, just with a pen and a gold gel pen, and that's all I use, and it was very, very effective. It actually really focused the mind down onto what I wanted the information to show, and I'm very pleased with it again because it's so simple and yet so effective. Our next section is all about words. Wording and how you draw the words can be very, very effective if that's all you've got time to do. So if you can see, I've got different words using different fonts, some from my own imagination, some are from Pinterest. The word fast, that was my own wording, and I think the ring out wild bells in this one was as well. But as you can see, it's very effective in the very simple use again of lettering, just to give it that certain something, especially if it's going to be very text heavy and you want the information or the title to stand out a bit more. Other than divider patterns, this is something that you can easily experiment with, and it is a very quick thing most of the time, unless you try and really elaborate writing. I've tried that. Sometimes it doesn't work quite the way you want it to, but it's well worth having experiments, just seeing what there is out there, and then just embracing what you want to do, how you want to turn it. You could do it as a theme, so like in the previous one we saw, Hello December, I did it very Christmassy with specific colours and very specific patterns that are associated with Christmas. And you can do that for practically any wording, which you'll see that again a bit later in this video. Before I show you my current journal, I thought I'd throw in a couple of extra examples from my older reading journal. On the left is a quick book review, and I just added a little bit of colour and a quick family tree as I was tracking that, and it was part of a series. And then on the right was a quick readathon that I took part of for a whole year. Very simple again, very easy to do, and it did add a little bit something just by adding different lettering. So the last page I wanted to show you was my very quick series tracker. Again, I kept it very, very simple and just used a different colour and different lettering to emphasise all the different aspects I needed to stand out. Hello, Vicky the voiceover here. This is going to be the quickest tour of my current journal I can possibly make it. I have recorded it like 4 times now, and each edition is still about 30 minutes long, so we'll just stick with me, hopefully keeping to under 5 minutes with the quick flip through. I'm afraid it doesn't give chance to really explain my thinking behind things. If you do want to have a longer video and see everything at a slower pace, let me know in the comments below and I'll add that video in as well. So here we go. So other than our contents page, I always tend to put a year page in just so I know that the year was starting, and I quite often share years in my journal, so that's why I do it. We have stats from last year so I can compare it to this year. My lovely Pop Sugar Challenge book page that I really enjoy having. Another one that I did but kind of failed a little bit is the opposite way around because there's flaps. There you go, didn't do anything for that one. My yearly goal, I've kind of almost finished it already, so I'm going to have to do another page. My future releases, and again, it's not quite finished, but it's a bit of a workhorse, so I don't mind too much. This year's stats, which I haven't kept up to date, but I probably will not do that until the end of the year because it gets confusing. And series, again, have an idea, but because it's so complicated, it's taken its time. And that leads us to the monthly. With this, I had the theme of Rapunzel, and I kind of told the story, as you can see, all the way through it. And because I was recording audio and books that I've read, I've got 2 different sets of tracking. Then I've got my TBR and books read. I did this so late that I kind of forgot what my TBR was, so I just left that. And my book of the month. It kind of repeats like that each month, but I'll just quickly whiz through the rest. So I've got a podcast page where I'm tracking the podcasts I'm listening to. It's well over 100 podcasts, and it gets also very confusing if you're trying to look through your iTunes to find it. Again, another workhorse, so workhorse pages I don't tend to do very much with it, just so it doesn't get confusing with what I'm trying to use. And a readathon that I managed to complete, I just stuck in the graphics that they had at the time. And my February, this theme was Hansel and Gretel. And you can see I kind of worked out more what I wanted to do, a bit more easier to read and see, and I really like the pictures. And of course there's Gretel pushing the witch into the fire, and I actually managed my TBR and books read, so it gave me a lot of space to work with even though I didn't use the space. And my books read. March turned out to be a bit of a disaster because I was trying to do The Little Mermaid and I cannot draw mermaids, I found. So all I have really is blank spaces and the tracker. In fact, I gave up with the TBR because I couldn't remember what it was, and so I stuck in a little picture instead because I don't know what else to do with it. It's going to be useless paper otherwise. But I will fill out the books read because that is something I can do along with the book of the month. Here's another readathon and another idea where I've stuck in this extra piece of paper with washi tape to keep track of things. And again, I had a bit of a disaster with April. I kind of half did it and half didn't, as you'll see in a second. So my theme was Harry Potter, as I was taking part in a Harry Potter readathon, and I kind of did the lettering for it, and that's probably all that I'm going to do for this session, so I'll probably go back and do April on the main page. And I stuck in my readathon information so I could keep track of that as well. This is the one page I did actually complete. As you can see, I might have overread, but at least I did put decoration as well in, so not so distracting. And as I'm recording this in May, this is my latest one. I haven't quite finished it yet, but that's all fine. So I went with medieval for the theme. I have a little snat, as I call it, a cat or a snail, which is quite nice. And I'm experimenting with watercolours, but I kind of went a little bit wrong. The castle did not turn out the way I wanted it to, but it was good to experiment and see what I did wrong so I can do something a little bit different next month. As you can see, I've got my books read and my TBR and found out that I'm way too impatient, and if I'm too impatient, things smudge. And there's my book of the month. I do have a couple of extra pages, so I have my what I call core pile, which is something I found from a YouTuber called Book Roast, and it's just another help when I'm doing book reviews and to clarify my thoughts and to whether I like the book or not. Okay, now that we've looked at different examples of what I've done in my bullet journals in previous times and what I've done in previous journals, now it's time to put some of that into practical use. We're going to have a look at a couple of different ways of doing each of the monthly pages that I normally do. So to do that, I'm just going to use one of my older journals. This is my older reading journal. It does have some stuff in it, but I didn't get very far. Just have a couple of reviews. But it'd be nice to do a page or two for examples for it. So if you want to do a monthly page, the easiest thing if you want to just have something quick and decorated is, let me just grab it, there it is to pop in just a quick quote. I'm going to stick it in with washi tape. Let's see, it's lots of blues. So we'll go with a nice dark blue. This is what I love about washi tape, it's just almost instant ease. And let's see, I'm just going to use my ordinary black pen, and it's June, so I'm just going to do a quick, let's make sure it works, there we go. So let's just do June. I'm just going to write June and then just add a tiny bit of colour. And just do stick lines. Go. Ooh, let's see, since it's all blues, let's go for purple will do. If you want to thicken up the lines, go for it, just to make it something different. In fact, I might just do that myself. Let's see. If you have a thicker pen, just use a thicker pen, of course. But if you've just got an ordinary pen and some pencils, then you can just thicken the line up fairly easily. And it does give it a certain extra something. There we go, easy. If If you don't have a quote, you could easily use a magazine where you've seen a picture that inspires you, a photograph, anything at all. It doesn't have to be a quote, you don't have to stick to one set of ideas. You can always use your own ideas and adjust it to what you like. If you like flowers and you just want the whole thing to be full of flowers, go for it. It is important to you, and it's all about what you feel happy with. Another thing you can do is you can just draw a picture in. I tend to do that more often than not than sticking in quotes or things like that. And I tend to do a theme for the whole month. So if I do, say, bees for the first page, then I'll have bees on all the other pages so I can keep them all connected together. So here you'll see I'm trying to draw a bee because that's a nice subject to do. So let's go with that. Oh, a ladybird actually. This might turn out to be a ladybird. If in doubt, always reference, which is what I'm currently doing, always reference pictures if you're going to draw something that you're not too sure about. Let's do it like that this time. That's better. There we go, a little bee. Let's just give him a pen outline. Let's go back. If I've only got a ballpoint pen. Ooh. There we go. Little bee. And the great thing is, if you do decide to say take a subject like a bee, bee is really easy, or a ladybird, either one of those. And what you could do, let's draw back in the lettering again. And I'm a one-hit wonder with the lettering unless I'm referencing it, but we'll just stick with June again. And this is a great thing as well if you're struggling with too many colours, too many options. Cut your colour palette down to like 2 or 3 colours. That's what I tend to do if I feel overwhelmed. But what you could do, if you colour it in yellow, that's just a quick idea again. And then you could go back in and just go bit of black, like a bumblebee. You could do that with ladybirds as well, so if you want to colour it in red and do red stripes. So let's colour in the bumblebee because that's better. I feel better knowing that he's got a bit of colour in him now. And red and black. There we go. Again, something very simple, very easy to do. Just remember to reference, or rather not reference, but look at a picture if you're drawing it. I tried to draw it from my mind, it didn't work. But there you have it, just really simple, easy to do. And you can always, you don't have to have like just one bee, you can do lots of little bees, insects, butterflies, flowers. There's so many different themes and subjects that you could pick or choose from. My suggestion is pick what you know you can draw at first if you're going to draw, or find simple drawings on Pinterest. I have created a couple of Pinterest boards on the Somerset Library's Pinterest part of the website. Do feel free to have a look at that. I've put fonts, colour swatches, simplified drawings. There is borders, that was the other thing, borders, and there might be other things appearing as I add to the different boards, so feel free to have a look and take your own inspiration. So to quickly review the 5 different ideas I've suggested so far, we've got, firstly, you can do just lettering, which you can use your faux calligraphy or you can print. You can, number 2, use a quote that you like and then again put the month underneath it or above it or wherever you like. Number 3, you can use a picture from a magazine, print something, or use a favourite picture from your photographs and use that instead if you want inspiration that way. You can 4, print out a colouring sheet, which is something that is quite fun to do, especially if you can't draw for toffee. Or you can, if you can draw for toffee, or you want to practice your drawing, of course. Number 5, draw something, and I tend to keep with simple outlines and simple drawings, because otherwise you're going to spend hours and hours on one page, especially if you've got 4 or 5 pages to do, or you're limited in time. You want to make sure that you have the easiest option that still gives you the pleasure when you look at it, so just remember that. We're going to move on to the tracking pages next. Now, with the tracking pages, there are several options again. You can do a 2-page spread, as you can see in the picture. That is a lot of work, but I tend to like it because I like having area to express my creativity as well, so that's why I tend to do more than 1 page. Okay, so here are some other ideas you can use for creating a tracking page in your bullet journal. Now, as you can see in the video, I've sped this up a little bit, otherwise it would take far too long. Here I am creating a 1-page tracking spread. It's a little bit different from the traditional. With the traditional, it's more like a graph where you have all the habits you want to track down the left-hand side, and then along the top you'll have all the dates. In the video, I've changed it from a big graph, as we're only doing a couple of different habits we're tracking. So I've got the name of the habit at the top, and then I've created 30 boxes, as June has 30 days, and I'm just writing the numbers in, so I can just put a cross through each one I've done. As an alternative idea, instead of doing a set of these boxes per habit you want to track, you could instead create 1 set of boxes, 1 set of dates, and then write the habits to one side, so like I'm doing in this video. Then assign a colour, and for each day, split it into however many habits you have, and then colour the box per habit that you have done. So I'm just colouring in a couple of examples to give you some idea as to what I mean. This method also gives us a bit of space so we can experiment with decorating it or adding something extra to the page. So here I've decided to just do a little bee, so I can connect this page to the previous page and keep kind of a theme going for the month. You don't have to draw anything, you could just keep it simple. You could even enlarge the 30-day boxes to cover almost the whole page and then have very little decoration. You could always just use the colours from the very first page to again connect it, or you can also add washi tape like I'm doing here. That's also really useful, especially if this is going to be the start of your month and you can quickly flick through to it. So the next part of the monthly setup I'm going to show you is the TBR page and the red page. Now, as you can see from the inserted picture below, I've done a 2-page spread, which you don't actually have to do. So this is the alternative. If you know you're going to read only 1 or 2 books a month, then you might want to only do a tiny little section for TBR and then have a bigger section for red, because sometimes you do read more than what you actually plan on. So as you can see with this, I kept with the B theme, and since the letter B and B sound the same, I drew a little B as a little pun, so TBR. Get it? I know, I'm hilarious. Anyway, moving on. So the second part of this, of course, is doing the red section. So I've actually given the majority of red to the page, if that makes sense, rather than the TBR, because I know I'm going to have a smaller TBR compared to red page. I've kept with the theme of bees still, and it's kind of fun because I've added in flowers this time, just to give it that extra little something and to give it a motion of moving. So you can do that as well. You can evolve as you go through the months in your journal. So with the bees, you could tell a little story, you could do it in different positions, add things. You can take any theme and do anything with it. It's just a matter of practicing and working out what your style is. And that's half the fun, really, of working out what your kind of style is. We're on our last page for the monthly setup, or rather suggestions for the monthly setup. With this, you don't actually have to create a whole page for book of the month. You could actually create a double spread where you have book of the month for each month just on a double spread, but I haven't drawn that one. I've just drawn the more traditional one that I use, where
I usually put a photograph or a printout of the book that I found was the best book of that month. We're still sticking with the theme of bees because bees are awesome, but I changed it up slightly where I had the focus being the book itself and the flower unfurling from the book, so it's as if the book is nectar to the bee. Well, that's how I imagine it to be. Doesn't quite work out that way, but that's okay because everything is practice, and as I said before and probably will repeat again, practice makes perfect, and even if you don't think it's great, what you don't think is great, someone else is going to think, wow, that's amazing. So just keep that in mind when you draw different things, or you take the plunge into drawing if you feel a bit weary and feel a bit intimidated. Just start. That's all you have to do, and as you progress and you draw more, even with the simple stuff, you'll get better, you'll get faster, and it'll be a great way to gauge your progress as you get better and better. Now we've just about reached the end of this video. You'll see me colouring in very, very soon. We've only really scratched the surface when it comes to monthly collections, and I didn't want to overwhelm you with too much information. So this at least gives you the starting point to start your own and for you to be able to explore and enjoy your own progression. Now, I do also want to address just collections in general, and I've given you a bonus video on collections, so you should find it under Bells and Whistles Part 2 collections, and we're going to have a look at a couple of different ideas that you can use in your bullet journal, and again, you can apply that to practically anything. If you have any questions or want to make any comments, do feel free to leave a comment below and we will get back to you. Have a great day, and we will see you in the next video.